finish up, I want to ask you a little bit about teaching because, you're working with the next generation of IT leaders at Villanova. When you talk to undergraduates and graduates about being an IT leader, how much of the concepts in the Change Dilemma book go into talking to them about being future leaders?
That's a very good question. So my experience with the undergrads is that sometimes even the subjects in my booklet, they are not going so deep. But basically, the undergrads, they don't have any experiences in these areas. Sometimes it's even tough to explain what a sales order is.
Right.
In terms of IT concept or database concept. So from that point, I try to weave in as many things as possible in my lecture, but I don't know how much really, stuck in the head.
Yeah, well, look, they bring new thinking, and if we go all the way back to much earlier in our conversation, you talked about the CEO dilemma of loyalists and the concept of fresh new thinking. It's young people coming in who are not stuck in the business process ways of the 80s and 90s, but think differently about the speed and the openness to change. They have a lot of promise to help organizations have a new mindset around it. Do you agree?
Yeah, I do agree. And this is also what I try to motivate them. So I try to get them asking questions. So since I always think, if somebody does not understand something, there's always, 100 other people. They don't understand it either, but they are not brave enough to ask. So I ask, those bright students to ask questions if they don't understand. And this asking questions alone could induce some innovation at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Since a question always to a seasoned leader, I mean, he always has to think about it and has to answer it, and maybe there are some good points that the students bring to the table.
Rarely do people think about CFOs or CEOs rather and use the word fear. What I like about young people is they tend to be relatively fearless, but in working with C-suite executives through your career in global support, while few would admit to being fearful, what really was forcing people to struggle with change was the fear of the unknown, the fear of the unexpected, the fear of the loss of political power. You talked about that. How much did you in your career sort of see the fear in people's eyes about getting started?
I mean, the fear factor is a dominant one, I would say. So this is also my experience. And of course, the root cause for the fear could be different ways, could be multifacets, but at the end of the day, fear is not a good convincing strategy, or it's not a good strategy to convince somebody. I mean, fear is always force, brute force sometimes. So, and this is, of course, this does not go well with innovation or with, since at the end of the day, it's not, in the beginning, I said, I need to have the CEO supporting the entire transformation, but supporting does not mean forcing,
right.
So from that point, if there is too much force from the top, then people, they resist, and it's not going into the right direction either.